morning, St. Francis. Good morning, people of God. It is Sunday, the 4th day of May, 2025. It is the third Sunday of the Easter season. It is the 15th day of the Easter season also. Coming to you from a hotel room because I'm in Swansboro and I would be outside, but it is pouring rain outside. We have confirmation yesterday in Hempstead and then a confirmation this morning in Swansboro at St. Mildred's. So got to spend the night in a hotel. So it was very nice. It was Hampton Inn. But Bishop and I will be going back to Raleigh after confirmation this morning. It's 9 o'clock confirmation, so it's nice and early to get that on the road again. But on this third Sunday of Easter, the last time that we have a resurrection appearance, again, just like in Christmas, where we can't stay at the crib in the manger with animals and shepherds and what have you. We move immediately from the birth of Christ really into his adult life, and again, what this birth means for us and what it will mean for his ministry. And the same thing is true. While we do linger a little bit longer with resurrection appearances, with the disbelief and the belief that Jesus is risen from the dead, today's the last Sunday that we do that. So of our 7 Sundays of Easter, only the first 3, because now we have to then begin to unpack next week what it means, for Christ to rise, which is more than what it means for him to be born. And so how does life change? How does our trajectory as human beings change? How does our future and destiny change? We will tackle that on the 4th and the succeeding Sundays of Easter. But for today, in the cycle of Luke, we actually have John's Gospel of a last appearance of Jesus on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. Now, there's a couple of stories that are kind of woven into this, all together. And again, there aren't many post-resurrection appearances. And as we heard as we heard last weekend, that there were, more stories about Jesus, but they can't be contained in these books. And so, but these are because they're the most important ones. Well, it would have been nice to know what the other stories were and what everything else was. But because, again, you cannot get... You cannot get waylaid by the fact that Jesus has died and rose. You have to, again, the fact that he rose matters, but you don't stay with just a Jesus appearing here and there. It's now, what does this mean for us, and how do we live our lives, and what does it mean to move forward as people of faith, confident, again, that this world that God has given us is good, and this world that God has given us is filled, with this goodness that we are called to emulate in our own lives, that we're called to model in our own lives, and it's possible because Christ is risen from the dead. And so this appearance on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. Now, it begins rather ridiculously because this is in chapter 21, the last chapter of John's Gospel, and there's been resurrection appearances already to these apostles. Thomas and his doubt has been relieved, has been solved by Jesus appearing to them. The tomb has been empty. Peter and John have gone to see it. All these kinds of things. Now, you think that, again, this amazing thing would keep them all on edge, wondering what's next and what's going to happen, what's going on. And it seems as though they're just laying around the Sea of Galilee. They're just laying around on the beach. And then Peter says, I'm going to go fishing. Well, okay. And then everybody else says that I'm going to go fishing too. Well, that's what you're going to do? Again, your friend who you thought was dead is now back, and he's risen, and you saw him, he appears, hither and thon, and it's getting in and out all over the place. And so, and you're just going to go fishing. But they do. It's kind of like, it still has yet to sink in their stupid little heads what has actually happened and what is going on in their lives right now. And again, they catch nothing, but somebody appears on the shore who basically says, throw the nets over on the right side of the boat, and they come back with a great haul. And when they realize that, they look again at that person, and it's Jesus. Now, so it means that Jesus is not easily recognizable, but Jesus is recognizable by speech and by what it is that he converses and how he engages the apostles. And Peter, who seems to be scantily clad for whatever reason, it must have been hot on the Sea of Galilee, basically jumps into the water and runs to him. And what happens next is that Jesus serves them breakfast and gives them bread and gives them fish. And words that are used are kind of like the same words that are used the Last Supper for bread and wine. There is no wine because it's breakfast. But the whole idea of fish, again, became quite a symbol within the early church because, again, they were fishermen, and were fish a part of any kind of Eucharistic meal, particularly around the seas, around water where there would be fish, in the early church. It's hard to say. But it's, again, a Jesus who feeds these apostles, a Jesus who feeds his friends. The most important thing, though, is a confession of faith, which is what happens next between Peter and Jesus. Peter, who denies Jesus 3 times earlier on, is asked three times by Jesus, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? And Peter says, yes, of course, yes, of course. And the third time he gets a little bit angry because why is Jesus asking me this question all the time? Of course he knows I love him. Well, again, Peter, remember you denied him. So again, there has to be this way of relieving, any guilt or relieving any whatever stain, whatever you want to call it, because of this threefold denial, a threefold affirmation of love. And because of that, Jesus gives Peter, again, an ability to, feed the sheep, care for the sheep, feed the lambs, to be one who cares, for people, who cares for the community, who cares for others. This is a confession of faith. Not that thing that only appears in Matthew's gospel, and it only appears in Matthew's gospel. This only appears in John's gospel, but in Matthew's gospel, again, Peter makes a ridiculous statement about Jesus being the Son of God, which is, while it is true, he doesn't really believe it, because again, he goes to deny him, and he goes to make all kinds of other mistakes right after that. And Jesus giving him the keys of the kingdom or whatever it is, well, whereas that confession does happen in the other synoptics, in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, only the keys of the kingdom are given to Peter in Matthew's gospel. Again, it's not about power. It's not about power. It's about love. And this is what this gospel shows us today. Again, that love cures all things, and that love is the reason why we move forward in faith, and love is the reason why we act, towards each other and care for each other and move towards into each other's lives. It is love, it is love, it is love. Peter affirms that with Jesus. Jesus affirms that with Peter. And that causes leadership to unfold, a leadership of love. Not about authority, about who's going to heaven, who's going to hell, or an authority about whose sins are forgiven, whose sins are not forgiven. It is all about love. A blessed Easter season, St. Francis and people of God. May the Lord give you his peace.